I found out my fiancé was hiding the woman he cheated with in plain sight as my wedding planner. My revenge? I let her plan the perfect wedding before destroying them both with her own meticulous arrangements. I, 29F, never thought I'd be sharing this story, but here I am 6 weeks after what should have been the happiest day of my life, seeking advice and maybe some reassurance that I didn't completely lose my mind. It all started last year when my boyfriend of 4 years, Daniel, 31M, proposed during a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. I was ecstatic. We had talked about marriage for a while, and despite our occasional disagreements, I thought we had a solid relationship. Daniel worked as an architectural engineer at a prestigious firm, while I managed a small bookstore downtown that I'd built from scratch. About 3 months into our engagement, we started seriously planning the wedding. I had all these ideas from books, occupational hazard of owning a bookstore, about elaborate ceremonies in historic venues with literary touches throughout. Daniel laughed and said my vision was beautiful but might exceed our budget. He suggested hiring a professional wedding planner to help us navigate costs and find creative alternatives. I have a colleague whose friend just started her own wedding planning business. He told me one evening, she's building her portfolio and offering discounted rates for her first few clients. Want to meet her? And that's how Vanessa, 28F, entered our lives. From the first meeting, something felt off. Vanessa was strikingly beautiful, polished in a way I never managed to be, with my perpetual messy bun and book dust on my clothes. But what really bothered me was how she and Daniel interacted, with a familiarity that seemed to go beyond a professional connection. Still, I dismissed my concerns. Vanessa was undeniably good at her job. She had impeccable taste, excellent vendor connections, and a way of negotiating discounts that was impressive. She took my half-formed bookish fantasies and transformed them into tangible, affordable options. Over the following months, Vanessa became a constant presence. She had meetings with Daniel when I was working late at the bookstore, sent him text updates about vendors, and occasionally stopped by his office to discuss contracts. I noticed she rarely contacted me directly unless Daniel was involved. Isn't it a bit strange that my wedding planner communicates more with you than with me? I asked Daniel one night. She's just being efficient, he said, barely looking up from his phone. She knows I'm handling the financial decisions, and you're busy with the bookstore. I tried to let it go, but something kept nagging at me. It wasn't anything obvious that I could point to, just a feeling, an intuition that something wasn't right. About 2 months before the wedding, my best friend Morgan visited from Seattle. We went to dinner at a new restaurant downtown. Daniel was supposed to join us, but texted that he was stuck at work. Morgan and I were catching up when I spotted them across the restaurant, Daniel and Vanessa sitting in a corner booth, his hand covering hers on the table. They didn't see us. I froze mid-sentence, and Morgan turned to follow my gaze. Before she could say anything, I grabbed my purse and practically ran out of the restaurant, Morgan hurrying behind me. That could be a work thing, right? Morgan suggested half-heartedly as I paced outside, trying to catch my breath. At a romantic restaurant? With him holding her hand? My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. I didn't confront Daniel that night. I needed evidence, something concrete that I could point to so he couldn't gaslight me into thinking I was paranoid or misinterpreting things. The next evening, while Daniel was in the shower, I heard his phone buzzing repeatedly on the kitchen counter. I'd never checked his phone before. I'd always respected his privacy. But the screen kept lighting up with Vanessa's name, and I couldn't stop myself. What I found wasn't a smoking gun like I love you messages or explicit photos. It was somehow worse. The easy intimacy of their conversations, casual references to times they'd been together when Daniel had told me he was working late. And then I saw it, a thread discussing a lease agreement for an apartment I knew nothing about. When Daniel emerged from the bathroom, he found me sitting at the kitchen island, his phone in my hand, tears streaming down my face. "It's not what you think," he started, but his voice trailed off when he saw the messages on the screen. What followed was the stereotypical cheater's confession, half-truths mixed with justifications. Yes, he and Vanessa had feelings for each other. No, they hadn't planned it. Yes, they had been seeing each other outside of wedding planning. No, he hadn't been sure what to do about it. How long? I managed to ask. His hesitation told me everything. Since before we got engaged, he finally admitted. The floor seemed to drop from beneath me. Our entire engagement had been a lie. The proposal, the ring, the wedding planning, all while he was involved with someone else. I'll cancel everything, he said, seeming almost relieved. I'll handle Vanessa and all the vendors. You don't need to worry about anything. Something in his tone sparked a rage in me I didn't know I possessed. He was already planning his exit strategy, already figuring out how to manage the fallout so he could move on with Vanessa. They probably already had their own future planned out. No, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Don't cancel anything. What? But I thought, I need time to process this, I said, improvising. Just give me a few days before we make any decisions. He agreed, probably thinking I was in denial or hoping for reconciliation. I let him believe whatever he wanted. I needed space to think. I moved temporarily into Morgan's Airbnb, telling Daniel I needed distance to sort through my feelings. In reality, I was formulating a plan. Most people would cancel the wedding, maybe expose the affair, then try to move on. But I couldn't stomach the thought of Daniel and Vanessa getting away with their betrayal so easily. They'd been playing me for over a year, using my dream wedding as a cover for their affair, probably laughing at my obliviousness while I agonized over centerpieces and guest lists. And that's when the idea struck me. The perfect revenge wasn't canceling the wedding. It was letting Vanessa continue planning it. I called Daniel the next day and told him I was heartbroken, but willing to talk things through. Maybe we could work it out in couples counseling. He seemed surprised but relieved, probably because canceling the wedding would mean explaining to everyone why. And I want to keep working with Vanessa. She's already put so much work into the wedding, and we'd lose all our deposits if we switched planners now. Are you sure? He asked, clearly uncomfortable. I can find someone else. No, I insisted. Vanessa's doing a great job. Let's not complicate things further. He agreed, probably after conferring with Vanessa, who wouldn't want to lose the substantial fee we were paying her. And so the charade continued. Over the next 2 months, I played the role of my life, the forgiving, hopeful fiancé trying to save her relationship. I attended planning meetings with Vanessa, smiling through her thinly veiled condescension. I approved her suggestions for flowers, cakes, and decorations with enthusiastic nods. I watched her and Daniel exchange furtive glances when they thought I wasn't looking, all while setting my real plan in motion. First, I did some digging and discovered Vanessa was married. This surprised me, as she'd never mentioned a husband during our getting-to-know-you conversations. Finding Michael wasn't difficult. Her social media still showed occasional photos of them together. Meeting him for coffee was surreal. He was kind, intelligent, and completely unaware that his wife was planning to leave him for my fiancé. I showed him the evidence I'd gathered, text messages, receipts, and the apartment lease they'd co-signed. Michael was devastated but grateful. I've felt something was wrong for months, he confessed, but I never imagined this. We agreed to keep in touch and coordinate our next steps. Second, I quietly contacted a colleague at Daniel's firm who I'd become friends with over the years. I didn't share all the details, just enough to hint that Daniel had been using company resources inappropriately, and that there might be an ethics issue regarding Vanessa's access to firm information when she visited him at work. Third, and most importantly, I made a few special arrangements for the wedding itself, adjustments to Vanessa's meticulous plans that neither she nor Daniel knew about. As the wedding day approached, Daniel became increasingly nervous. He'd been attending couples counseling with me, but our sessions were strained and unproductive. I could tell he was trying to figure out how to end things without being the bad guy. "Are you sure you still want to go through with the wedding?" he asked one night, a week before the ceremony. "It feels like we're going through the motions." I took his hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "I've put so much into this wedding, Daniel. Let's just get through it, and then we can figure out our next steps." He nodded, relief evident in his expression. He probably thought I was in denial, that after the wedding he could break things off gently and start his new life with Vanessa. Little did he know. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. A perfect June day at the historic mansion Vanessa had secured for us at a special discount. I got ready with my bridesmaids, including Morgan, the only person who knew the full extent of my plan. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" she whispered as she helped me with my veil. "It's not too late to just walk away." "I'm sure," I replied, my voice steady. They don't get to write the ending to this story. The ceremony was set for 4 p.m. Guests began arriving at 3, greeted by servers offering champagne. Everything was exactly as Vanessa had planned: the flowers, the music, the carefully arranged seating chart. At 3:30, I asked everyone to leave the bridal suite except Morgan. Once we were alone, I sent 2 text messages I'd been waiting all day to send. At 3:45, just 15 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin, my plan unfolded. Michael arrived first, making his way directly to the groom suite where Daniel was getting ready with his groomsmen. From my hiding spot near the adjoining hallway, I heard the raised voices, then Daniel's panicked tone. "You don't understand. This is a mistake." Next came the colleague from Daniel's firm, right on schedule, asking staff to discreetly point him toward Daniel. And finally, at 3:55 p.m., when all the guests were seated and waiting, I didn't walk down the aisle as expected. Instead, on the large screens Vanessa had installed to ensure everyone could see the ceremony, a slideshow began playing. It started with a simple title card: The True Love Story of Daniel and Vanessa. What followed was a carefully edited montage of evidence: text messages, receipts, the apartment lease, and voice recordings of them discussing their plans for after the wedding. The final slides simply read, "Today's ceremony has been canceled. Please enjoy the reception as planned. The open bar is now available. With sincere apologies, Lily." I never saw Daniel's face when the slideshow played. I was already in my getaway car with Morgan, heading to the airport for a flight to Italy, a trip that had been meant for our honeymoon, paid for entirely from Daniel's accounts. It's been 6 weeks since what my friends now call the wedding that wasn't, and I'm still trying to process everything that happened. I'm writing this from my apartment, where I've been holed up since returning from Italy a week ago. The trip wasn't the healing experience I'd hoped for. I spent most of it alternating between crying in my hotel room and forcing myself to visit tourist sites because I'm in Italy, damn it, and I should see something besides 4 walls. I've been fielding calls and texts from friends and family since I returned, all wanting to know if I'm okay and what happened exactly. The story has spread throughout our social circle, growing more dramatic with each retelling. According to my cousin, there's a version going around where Daniel and Vanessa were caught in the coat closet during the rehearsal dinner. The reality is less sensational, but just as painful. I'm drowning in the aftermath: emotional, financial, and social. Here's where things stand. Daniel has called and texted dozens of times, his messages evolving from angry, "How could you humiliate me like that?" to desperate, "Please talk to me, I need to explain." I haven't responded to any of them. He moved out of our apartment while I was in Italy, taking only his personal belongings. I'm now faced with a lease I can't afford on my own. Vanessa hasn't contacted me directly, but I heard through mutual acquaintances that she's furious about the damage to her reputation. Apparently, several clients have canceled their contracts with her, and she's considering legal action against me for defamation and intentional sabotage of her business. I don't know if she has any legal ground to stand on, but I'm worried. Michael and I have met for coffee twice. He filed for divorce immediately after the wedding debacle. He seems to be handling everything better than I am, already talking about dating again and moving on. I can barely get out of bed some mornings. The financial fallout has been devastating. I lost my deposit on our apartment when Daniel moved out. I'm out about $20,000 of my own money that went into the wedding. Daniel's family is demanding I reimburse them for their contributions, claiming I defrauded them by proceeding with wedding planning when I knew the relationship was over. My bookstore is suffering because I haven't been fully present for weeks. Sales are down, and I've had to reduce my employees' hours, which makes me feel terrible. Friends keep telling me I did the right thing, that Daniel and Vanessa deserved what they got, and maybe they did. But the victory feels hollow. I didn't just blow up my relationship, I blew up my entire life. Some days I wonder if I should have just walked away quietly, canceled the wedding with some excuse about growing apart, and tried to preserve my dignity and finances. The revenge felt good in the moment, but now I'm left with the wreckage. I'm seeing a therapist twice a week trying to process everything. She says my anger was justified, but that I need to focus on healing myself now rather than continuing to punish Daniel and Vanessa. I guess what I'm asking is, was it worth it? Did I go too far? And how do I move forward from here? I feel stuck in this horrible limbo between vindication and regret, between feeling powerful for standing up for myself and feeling foolish for the way I did it. For those who've been through something similar, does it get better? How long before I stop replaying everything in my head, analyzing each moment of our relationship and wondering if I missed the signs years ago? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 3 months later. First, thank you to everyone who commented with support and advice on my original post. I didn't expect such an outpouring of kindness from strangers, and it genuinely helped me through some dark moments. Many of you asked for an update, so here it is. Life is slowly stabilizing. Not great, not terrible, just different. The legal threats from Vanessa never materialized. According to Michael, yes, we still meet occasionally. She realized any lawsuit would just bring more attention to the affair and likely reveal additional details she'd rather keep private. Her business took a hit, but she's rebranded and moved to a neighboring city where people don't know the story. Daniel eventually stopped trying to contact me after I sent a formal cease and desist letter through a lawyer friend. Last I heard, he was transferred to his firm's office in another state. Not fired, as I'd initially hoped, but definitely damaged professionally. The colleague I tipped off informed me that Daniel is now under strict oversight for his expenses and client interactions. The financial situation has improved somewhat. I negotiated with my landlord to break the lease early without losing my entire security deposit. I've moved into a smaller apartment closer to my bookstore, which has been therapeutic. No memories of Daniel there. My parents lent me money to cover some of the wedding costs, which I'm slowly paying back. The bookstore is doing better now that I'm fully focused on it again. I've started hosting more events, book clubs, author readings, wine and literature nights, and sales are picking up. It's become my sanctuary again rather than just another source of stress. As for me personally, I'm still not sure if my revenge was real. The satisfaction was real, but fleeting. The consequences, financial, emotional, and reputational, have been longer lasting than I anticipated. If I could go back, would I do it differently? Probably, but I can't change it now, so I'm trying to make peace with my choices and focus on rebuilding. One unexpected positive, I developed a closer relationship with my parents through all this. They've been incredibly supportive, not just financially, but emotionally. My dad, who's usually stoic and uncomfortable, has called me every Sunday just to check in. My mom stayed with me for 2 weeks after Italy, making sure I ate and helping me sort through wedding gifts that needed to be returned. So, that's what I'm doing slowly. Not dramatic, thriving in my new life with a hot boyfriend and successful career update,